In this video, I'm going to talk about the idea that there are three genders. I believe there's three genders, and I'll tell you why in this video. It's not what you think. I'm John from BulldogMindset.com. On this channel, I teach you how to be a man. I teach you how to build financial independence, how to get the physique you want, how to get the girls that you want, and how to go from the victim mindset to what I call the bulldog mindset. First of all, I want to tell you about sort of my journey. Growing up, I was a very different person than what I am now. I was very shy, very introverted. I was afraid to talk to people, socially awkward, lazy, a lot of different things. I did not feel very masculine. As I became an adult, as I turned 18 or 19 or even in my 20s, I felt like an adult, but I didn't feel like a man. I was still this young kid. It wasn't a man standing there in the mirror looking at me. I wondered how other men became men, why they were different, why I would view certain people as this guy's a man and I wouldn't view myself as that, even though I'm at that age. I just never knew what it was to be a man. I want to talk about the idea that there are three genders. There's man, there's woman, and there's boy. I believe that if you look out into the world, you will see men, women, and boys as adults. You will notice that there are some men that are not men. They are still boys, right? Even though they're 20, 30, 40 years old, sometimes even 50 years old, they haven't developed that masculinity. They haven't become a man. Boys don't automatically become men just because they become adults. They have to actually do something. They have to go through a process in order to become a man. You see a lot of boys. You see a lot of grown boys that are walking around that are not men. And maybe you identify with that. If you're going to be embarrassed, don't be embarrassed, because I went through the exact same thing, and it took me a long time to actually step into what I call my manhood. Let me tell you how I became a man, right? And what happened, what changed for me. There's a few different catalysts, but there's two main things that happened. A lot of things were going on in my life, in my mind, but one of the real big things that happened was that I started to get a lot of guilt from my parents. And I remember I finally get to this point where I was no longer going to accept the guilt. All right, and I came to this conclusion in my head. Part of it was I went to a Tony Robbins seminar called Date with Destiny. And when I was there, I was thinking about a lot of things. You kind of reconstruct your whole life. And Tony said something which I've talked about a lot on this channel, but it changed my life, is he said, the quality of your life is a direct proportion to the amount of uncertainty you can comfortably live with. And that flipped a switch in me. It made me realize that I was no longer going to put expectations on other people, and I wasn't going to allow them to put expectations on me. When you are trying to put expectations on people, you're trying to get some certainty. You want them to behave in a certain way that you want. You're looking to avoid risk. You're looking to avoid trouble, and you're doing things that you're feeling compelled to do. Shortly after that, around that time frame, I basically told my parents, I am not going to allow you to put expectations on me. I'm not going to allow you to use guilt. Okay, you may disagree with me, but I'm not doing it anymore. And I did this with everyone in my life, but specifically as a man, I believe that you've essentially got to do what I say is killing your father, metaphorically. You have to kill his values. Your father typically represents all of the values that have been imposed upon you in society, right? You have to step out and create your own value system, your own judgments, your own scale of what is good and what is bad and what you accept and what you don't. You have to create your own boundaries. And that's what I did, is I came up against my parents, and I finally broke free by saying, I am my own man. I am the patriarch. I am the king of the tribe. And I decide what is the law, not you. I don't need your approval. This doesn't necessarily have to be a hostile thing. In many cases, it's going to come across as an act of violence. Okay? When I did this, the reaction was not a pleasant reaction. Okay? My parents did not want me to separate from them and set my own value system and to determine my own good or bad, and to not seek their approval anymore, but to seek my own approval. Okay? They didn't want me to do that. Okay? That's a violence done to them. It's a cutting off. But it is something that is necessary in order for you to grow and develop, in order for you to go from boy to man. I was actually disowned by my father for some period of time. Now we're great friends, okay? Now we are peers. We see eye to eye, okay? We understand, we respect each other as men. We have different viewpoints, but it doesn't matter because I don't have to impose mine on him and he doesn't have to impose his on mine. We can stand separate as men. But before that, the nature of our relationship was not that way. It was him imposing on me and me fighting and trying to convince him, but still under his value system and under a need for his approval, okay? And again, this does not just represent your father, okay? Because some of you say, well, I don't have a father, or my father left me, or whatever it is, or my father died. It's the world, right? The manifestation of this, at least for me and for most men, is within the figure of your actual father. But really it represents you breaking free of the world, of you setting your own values and standards. It changed my actions from compelled actions to voluntary actions. They had meaning. I was genuine. I was an authentic person and a man because I was able to act freely. It was out of my own sovereignty, not out of compulsion. Most of you, honestly, and most people in society are acting out of compulsion. They're doing things because they don't want to feel guilty. They're doing things because they feel like they should do things. They're doing things out of obligations to other people or expectations that other people have put on them. And they're putting expectations on other people. Okay, that's sort of the default mode. The second thing that I did was I accepted my own mortality and death. I accepted the consequences for my actions in life. As a child, we are protected by our parents. We're protected. We're supposed to be. Some of you are abused. Some of you have lived in shaky homes and you weren't quite so protected. The world is supposed to protect us as children. Someone is going to protect us. Someone's going to make sure we eat the right foods. We're not going to eat poison. They're going to make sure that we go to school and we're taken care of and all of these things. We go to see a doctor and all these things. But when we step out into the world on our own, we tend to still carry that bubble with us. And what we have to accept, because we're being shielded from reality, is we have to accept that life is not infinite, that you will die, that your actions have consequences, and you have to be willing to accept those consequences for those actions. To fully embrace the idea that whatever you do, you should do it anyway, but accept the consequences. Stop living in this bubble of trying to protect yourself from consequences and start saying, John, do whatever the fuck you want to do in life. You decide, but accept all the consequences that go with it. I'd rather live my life and risk my life and die than to live afraid, to live fearing consequences. It's throwing off the victim mindset and saying, you know what? When shit happens to me, it's my fucking fault. I did it. I deserved it. I chose that path. It's not that I deserved it, I chose it. The consequences for your actions, you've chosen. When consequences happen for your actions, and you say, oh, wait a minute, that's not my fault. Someone else did this to me. Society did this to me. A racist president did this to me. Whatever it is, whatever excuse that you have, my being poor did this to me. The government did this to me. Whoever it is, the bullies did this to me. You are choosing to become a victim. Some consequences for actions are, quote, unfair, but they are still the consequences for the actions. And you must accept them as a man. So basically, there's two things that a man must do. To forge his own way. To create his own value system. To decide within himself what is good and what is right and what is wrong. To use his own standards to measure things, not to look to others, not to look to approval of others, right? This is where we're seeking the external validation. We're seeking the approval from our parents. We're seeking the approval from the world. If you do that, you will remain a boy. You will not be a man. A man pursues his own purpose, his own goals in life, and tackles his life based on what he believes is the right path to take. Number two is, again, accepting the consequences of your actions and accepting your inevitable death. Whatever I do, I will do it. And I won't fear doing it. And I will take whatever consequences come. What do you guys think? Do you consider yourself a man? Maybe you're a woman. That's okay. You can comment below as well if you want. And make sure to click that subscribe button if you haven't already. I'll talk to you next time. Take care.